Well, sorry to break the news to all of you, but it looks like the superhero genre is dead and gone. No more superhero flicks. Looks like they've screwed the pooch. They've had to ruin it. With the new leaks coming out over the Superman plot, it looks like it's going to be another anti-fan fest, where they decide to go in and they just attack all of the fans, the people who like Superman, the people who would normally be their audience, and now we're going to denigrate them. They're nothing more than monkeys with keyboards. That's what Superman's saying about us, as apparently there's going to be some stupid thing where Lex Luthor has an interdimensional portal to a dimension that's run by mind-controlled monkeys typing away shit posts on their keyboards. I'm not even kidding, that's what the leak says. With some stupid trend called super shit is going to be what they're going to be calling him. Now, I've been saying for a while that if Superman fails, that's it for comic book movies. They're gone, they're done, nobody's going to care anymore, because Superman should be the one that should get the biggest audience just for existing, because everybody loves Superman. Everybody loves their Ubermensch, but clearly not. If you're going to tell a bad story, no one's going to go, and if Superman can't bring in an audience, who can? But it's impossible to be sympathetic when it's all their fault and they deserve everything they get. So before we go any further, like, subscribe, and let's get into this. So coming from that Park Place, Superman plot leak sparks fear that James Gunn is making fans the villains. For a film that's supposed to save DC's cinematic future, a new plot leak for James Gunn's Superman is already doing something dangerous, alienating the very people it needs to win back. A newly leaked plot detail from the upcoming 2025 reboot has ignited a firestorm online, and fans are asking one simple question: is James Gunn using Superman to go after us? Now, supposedly, I don't know the validity because I don't have any insiders, it sounds like James Gunn is still really miffed about when he was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 for a little bit, when all those pedophile joke accusations come out. And now the weird thing is, supposedly, the people he's mad at are conservatives. He's supposedly angry at the right-wingers for him getting fired from a left-wing company, when no one on the right was complaining about James Gunn's pedophilia jokes because we knew they were jokes. But apparently he supposedly has an axe to grind against the right-wingers, so he's gonna make sure to sharpen that axe and swing it full, cutting his audience in half even more. What the Superman plot leak says is that there are potential spoilers ahead for Superman, but they're already plastered all over X, with YouTuber Nerdrotic confirming the info is legitimate, at least to his sources. According to the leak, Superman will feature a recurring gag, or what some call a theme, oh god I hate themes, involving online backlash to the hero. A hashtag featuring an expletive is referenced multiple times in the film, and we're told that Kal-El is emotionally rattled by the negative social media discourse. So not only is Superman the movie going to be about online chuds making fun of Superman, we're supposed to believe that this Superman's a little bitch boy who can't handle a little bit of criticism? You mean to tell me that he's got a weaker backbone than 50-year-old YouTubers who get death threats on the daily? But in a bizarre twist, Lex Luthor is revealed to be operating in some sort of interdimensional world where mutant monkeys are seen at keyboards furiously typing and generating digital hate aimed at Superman. These monkeys are essentially Luthor's troll army, spreading misinformation and ridicule online to demoralize the hero. If that sounds insane, it's because it is, but more troubling than the monkey business is what it represents. Now, I've heard some people say that this plotline is perfectly fine. This sounds exactly like the kind of thing we'd get from a Silver Age comic. And okay, yeah, monkeys spreading a hate campaign does sound pretty wacky. It does sound kind of goofy. Maybe something we could get in a serialized version of a Silver Age style comic book TV show. This has no business being in the first movie for James Gunn's Superman. If you wanted to put in this episode into like an episode of CW's Lois and Clark, you'd be more than welcome to. That makes complete sense. Put it there. But why are you making this one of the key parts of the plot of the 2025 reboot that's supposed to kick off the entire DC universe? You're just asking for trouble. And to long-time observers of James Gunn's works, this may feel familiar. In Creature Commandos, which you couldn't pay me to watch, Gunn inserted an out-of-nowhere incel army as a jab at fans, a choice that felt more like a Twitter feud than storytelling. It didn't fit the plot, it didn't enhance the narrative, but it did make a statement. Now with this plot leak for Superman, a much bigger and infinitely more important property, Gunn seems to be going back to the same well, using his script to settle scores. Now, whether this is aimed at conservative Snyder fans or just critics of his leadership at DC, the metaphor is too on the nose to ignore. Social media trolls equals Lex Luthor's mutant monkeys. Hashtags existential threat to Superman's psyche, and the underlying tone, look what you've done to me. Now, what really makes no sense with any of this shit whatsoever is we're talking about Superman. A person who's so busy constantly saving life he barely has time for his job, which is also all-consuming as a journalist at the Daily Planet. And in his spare time, he's trying to court Lois, but it's not really working because he's too busy being a journalist and a superhero. Though here's the thing, social media doesn't affect you if you don't have time for it. If you don't have time to be scrolling on your phone, then there's absolutely no point in making this thing, because Superman will not be on his phone all the time. He will never get to see the hashtags and the hate campaigns. And they've tried this story before, and they've done it far better. It works when it's in newspapers, it works when it's on TV, but by God, it's not gonna work when it's fucking social media scrolling. This might be one of the most brain dead ideas I've ever seen, because it just doesn't make any sense. There's no pragmatism to it. There's no logic behind it. Superman will never understand that he's being hated on. It won't affect his psyche because he lives too busy of a life to see it. And you know, when you live a busy life, the first thing to go is the convenience of social media, because it's nothing more than a time waster, and Superman doesn't have time to waste his on social media. And sure, you can make the argument that it's going to shape public perception in the movie, but so what? A core aspect of Superman's stories is that everybody hates him at first. That's the whole thing with every Superman movie. Everyone thinks he's a threat at first until he proves that he's here to help. And ultimately, that Park Place puts it perfectly. This is not the mythic return Superman fans were hoping for. This is nothing more than a super bitch, a person who wears a cape for show and flies around crying everywhere. I'm not interested. Now, fans react to this with satire or snub. The backlash has been swift and unforgiving. Some fans have labeled the leak dumb, petty, and tone deaf, and also just straight up retarded. But not everyone sees it as doom and gloom. Known Scoober viewer Anon tried to spin the moment as comedy, posting, guys, the hashtag super shit thing is one of the best jokes in the movie. Even people who didn't like it have pointed out the punchline is something fantastic. And maybe it's a great punchline. Maybe it actually does work. Maybe it flows perfectly. But guess what? That's not the kind of information you want out there right now, because it takes one thing to go wrong to lose an audience member. And when 10 things are going wrong, you're sacrificing most of your audience. All for what? A gag that may or may not land? There's no point in risking the main movie of your DCU, the movie that's probably going to have a budget around $300 million and is desperately going to need to try that, win that back, when Warner Brothers hasn't had a cinematic success in years. Especially not a tentpole success. But even if it is a great punchline, that Park Place works perfectly. Why is it in the movie? This doesn't belong in the movie, and most importantly, it doesn't belong in this movie. You can cover this in a Superman story, but why would you cover this in his first appearance? If you're reestablishing Superman to If you're rebooting Superman to reestablish hope, courage, and timeless heroism in an era of uncertainty, why make his greatest enemy the comment section? And that's true. That's exactly the correct point. James Gunn said this is a more hopeful Superman. This is a Superman for the future. This is the Superman we need right now. So we're going to make the viewers the bad guy. Makes fucking sense to me. I'm glad I know where James Gunn's head is at. But this isn't just about a single scene. Superman is the launch pad for Gunn's entire DC universe. After the total collapse of the Snyderverse and the spectacular box office failures of The Flash, Black Adam, Blue Beetle, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Wonder Woman 1984, and Shazam! Fury of the Gods, this movie needs to be more than good. It needs to win everyone back. And that's exactly what I've been saying. Here's the thing, and I truly believe this. If Superman fails, that's the end of comic book movies. Whatever's in the pipeline now will get finished, maybe, as we're seeing most movies confirmed by Marvel aren't getting finished, such as the Blade movie being left dead in the water and put into perpetual delay. This will hold true for just about every other Marvel movie, because Fantastic Four also isn't gonna do well. With Girl Boss Sue Storm and Faggot Johnny Storm, it's not gonna fly, it's not gonna flow, and nobody's going to care. And this is going to waste so much money and so much time that nobody's ever going to be willing to invest in Superman again. Or DC for that matter. DC will be dead in the water. Instead, we're getting early signs of the same behavior that cratered fan trust in Marvel. Creators, in this case, a major Marvel creator, using major IPs to push their message instead of letting the story speak for itself. This has nothing to do with Superman's story. This is James Gunn's story, and James Gunn being a little butthurt that he got fired by leftists for making pedo jokes. Audiences have been remarkably clear over the past 5 years. They don't want lectures. They don't want jabs at fan culture or meta commentary about social media drama. They want escapism. They want inspiration. They want Superman. What they don't want is to be made the villains of the most important superhero movie of the decade. James Gunn's Superman hits theaters July 11th, 2025. Whether the world will still care by then depends on what flies faster, hope or hashtags. And that's basically it. I have zero sympathy because they're doing it to themselves. They're begging for this movie to fail. They're begging to flop. They're asking for it, and if they think it's some kind of ideological win, be my guest to sacrifice everything for that little bit of ideology. Let me know if it's worth it. And let's not forget the rumors that the Superman movie was going under reshoots less than a month ago. With it coming out in just over a month, I'm sure that's gonna do just peachy for you, Gunn. But anyway, that's pretty much what I've got. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this, and I will see you guys on the next one.